Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Denise Flanders, General Manager of the legendary Hotel Bel-Air in Los Angeles. Coming up on today's show, Denise brings up espionage.
There's always the silent code within the hospitality industry.
Phil talks about bridges. I certainly want to walk over this bridge now. And Denise makes her play for the most original line we've ever had on the show.
Then she just said, "Stop cleaning. I want you to sit here and knit with me."
All that and so much more as we chat through Denise's wonderful story and journey so far. My conversation with Denise is like an advertisement as to all the reasons you should join hospitality, and she talks so passionately about the industry from the outset. It's another fabulous story from someone who clearly has hospitality coursing through her veins, and being at the helm of one of the world's most famous hotels clearly suits her down to the ground. Thanks so much to Denise for giving up her time. Please don't forget to give us a like, subscribe and a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening. It really does make a huge difference. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street. Now, when I set this humble little show up nearly 2 years ago, I wasn't sure who would listen and indeed where. But here we are now, as of today, it's listened to in 113 countries. It was 111 yesterday, so I don't know where the other two have come from today. No idea how they keep finding me, but for today's guest, in order to demonstrate the international flavour of hospitality and to keep our international listeners happy, and I'm sure the UK listeners will take benefit from this as well, we're crossing the seas, and specifically the Atlantic. And not only that, but we've gone to one of the world's most famous hotels, none other than the Hotel Bel-Air, which is part of the Dorchester collection. And we've only gone and booked the general manager of that said hotel, and that is the wonderful Denise Flanders. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Phil. It's great to be here and wonderful to be a guest of yours today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, thanks so much for agreeing to do this. I had a big shout out to actually Jenny O'Perry, who's a friend of the show, been on before. He made the connection between you and I. And I'd had a dream in my mind to start trying to, I suppose, track down some people from some of the world's most iconic hotels and start showing the world what wonderment is out there in the world of hospitality. How is life in Bel-Air?
Well, we are, sunny California, blue skies. The sun is always shining, and it's just great. We never closed during the pandemic, so we always remained open, kept all of our employees on board, and coming out of it has been there has been challenges, but overall, what's really great to see is our local businesses definitely never faltered. When I say local, I mean the U.S. definitely came back with a very strong rebound, and our guests were great and happy to see that they had familiar faces here when they returned, which gave everyone a wonderful feeling of feeling safe and protected, and being familiar. Coming back to familiarity was wonderful to see too.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, well, and, Bel-Air in this part of the world is known for sunshine, but also the Fresh Prince. Of course, I have to get that in there.
Yes.
Which is, when I was writing this earlier on, I was thinking to myself, I'm not sure I can bring that up. I mean, that's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is actually quite topical this week because of said actions and in a certain awards ceremony. But in any case, we shouldn't remember it for that.
No, I know there's a lot of news out there today on that, and I know some of it, but I haven't really dove into it. But really, our hotel is situated in a residential community, and it's something that no one can really duplicate today. We're on 12 acres. We're surrounded by beautiful estates here as well, and it's duplicated. You drive up to Bel-Air and you don't even know you're at a hotel. There's no marquee, there's no porte-cochere, no flags are flying, and you just step out of your car and you see this wonderful bridge, and you know that you're leaving one world behind and about to enter another world where
Fantastic.
You can live your life beyond compare.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Sounds idyllic. And I saw your face light up as you were describing that as well. you've been at the property, as we'll find out, I'm sure, as we run through your history and story. You've been there for a few years now, but to see you still just light up when you're talking about that kind of that sense of arrival, almost of going over the bridge, and you clearly are where you're meant to be.
Yes, I'm very fortunate and surrounded by a group of talented team members that bring it to life every single day. And, there are trials and tribulations for sure, but I think we stay focused on who we are, our culture, and knowing that we're bringing and creating special memories for our guests and for each other as employees of as a team in the sense of community and bringing generations together so that there are future generations that can enjoy the same benefits of what we bring to everyone today.
Fantastic. Right. Well, let's get to it. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, because the one thing that I didn't do this when I first started this podcast, but I didn't do a lot of research on people. But now I like to do that. But actually, with you, it's kind of that moment for me whereby you go to an original movie or a musical or whatever, and you don't really know the story. I don't know your story, and I find that really exciting. So, if you could take us all the way back to the beginning, how did you get into hospitality in the first place?
Well, I started off going to college, a local state college. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Pittsburgh. And I was studying sociology and psychology. And after 4 semesters, I wanted to just see what else was out there. I grew up with a family. We would just take road trips along the East Coast and stay at Howard Johnson's. And I always loved the brand Howard Johnson's back in the day because it was, again, something that was familiar. You saw the orange roof, coming up along the side of the highways, and, we had a great pool, great restaurants. And with that, I took time off to, as I tell the team here, to put my psychology and sociology to play. And I, was bartending, in Ocean City, Maryland, along some coastal resort areas in Maryland and Delaware. And then I joined Hilton in the Midwest, but my true career came to fruition, I think, in New York when I joined the Helmsley Palace back in the mid 80s. I was there as a front office manager. Most of my exposure to hotels has been on the room side.
Right.
And from there, I joined Four Seasons at the Pierre Hotel, which was been very fortunate to work in very iconic hotels that mean a lot to the community, that have a lot of history to the community. And I was with Four Seasons for 23 years.
Wow.
Became a
Nobody ever leaves Four Seasons. That's it's the as a recruiter, I know that for a fact because I rarely get any Four Seasons CVs, so they must be doing something right.
That does. It's a fabric of the foundation of, for me, for luxury and what that meant back in the 90s as the company was growing. I joined the Four Seasons when we had 17 hotels, and I left when we had 90. And
Right.
I was one of 4 female GMs at the time. And I worked in Seattle, Atlanta, and Chicago. And when I was in Chicago, I received a phone call from Dorchester Collection. It was right when the Hotel Bel-Air had just reopened as a Legend Reborn with a 2-year renovation and restoration. And I flew out. Bel-Air was, as you mentioned in the opening, has always been on my radar. I would visit when I was in LA. It was unique within itself of what it offered to the community. And it was one of those places similar to the Pier when I was in New York. It was like one of those hotels. Would I ever be able to work at that hotel? And I was fortunate enough to really have both dreams come true. And I've been with the Dorchester Collection now for 10 years.
Yeah, and that's that's to me, as I said earlier on, that it feels like you have found your home. You don't stay in the one place for 10 years if you're not happy. That would be my first observation, generally speaking, unless you like pain or suffering. But I think in your case, certainly the way that you talk about the property and but also just generally your demeanor around it, it sounds to me like you like where could you go next to make
Right.
you that happy?
It's true, and I was again fortunate, and especially again with Dorchester Collection, to align my values with the core values of the company, and so you never have to compromise how you get work done. And I think that the strength of Dorchester Collection, even through our culture and coming out strong over the last 2 years, is the strength of our core values, and that's all about the passion for what we do and being able to use our own personalities in how we work with one another, as well as creating the guest experience, respecting each other, and knowing that you can't get it done alone, and working together, and always looking at creative ways and of getting work done as well to remain relevant, and focusing not only on the guest experience but the employee experience as well, which is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I did actually what you mentioned there around evolution, because I mean the Dorchester Collection is a powerful brand in the world of luxury, but I think you can, if you rest on your laurels too much in that space, you can get left behind very, very quickly. And it's something that I think the company does incredibly well across all of its properties, is this evolution. Because I mean, you said it yourself, a legend reborn. Your hotel, I mean, how long has it been officially operating now?
75 years.
Right, yeah.
We just
So
celebrated last year our 75th year. And
it's an old lady of the Bel-Air scene
it
and
certainly
part of the
is.
furniture. But in order to remain successful, is obviously you can't take 75-year-old mentalities, can you, and move forward with it. You've got to continually be on the edge of progression.
You do. And, yes, it's 75 years. We have one of the most beautiful canvases to work from, to create from. But again, it's capturing that one moment in time that you have in front of the guests to bring that alive, of their personal experience. And, people come here to create, to write music, to write plays, to have business meetings, to socialize, to have a once in a lifetime event, whether it be a wedding or a birthday, or celebrating a birth of a baby. But at the same time, it's how the team can adapt to what is happening in front of them. And, the art of hospitality is something that, if you love diversity, if you love something new every day, this is a great business to see it unfold, and you being a part of that story that lasts for generations, that people tell over and over again.
Yeah. Wow. That should be on a T-shirt right there. What you just said around that. It's yeah, because I completely agree with you. I mean, that if you're looking for the same thing over and over again, this is definitely not the industry for you. But it's such as you say, a diverse industry in terms of the things that you come up against, the people you meet, the challenges that you face, the fun that you have. It is a no 2 days are the same type place to
No,
be.
no. And, today there are, the challenges that are out there are like no other, right? We're working through the end of a pandemic, social crises, the political, the geopolitical items that are going on. And, when people walk through, as I said, when people walk over the bridge, it's up to us to look at how we can alleviate that. And we do it by just building these really strong relationships with the guest, as well as with each other, because supporting each other through the great times, the not so great times, also forms these connections that are part of our that's a lifetime memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you always know that you wanted to move into luxury at some point in your career, or was that something that you were introduced to and you went, "Oh, hello, this is for me"?
I think, well, I started off with Howard Johnson's to the Helmsley Palace in New York, and that was
Yeah,
a huge step. But yes, once I was introduced to it, and that was my core experience in New York when I was visiting other hotels. It was part of the world coming to you and you being able to see it unfold, not only on the news and what was happening, but also, and now today on social media, but you can see it unfolding in front of you. And I think the approach of protecting that is key too. And there's always the silent code within the hospitality industry, like what stays in Vegas remains in Vegas, right?
yeah,
And that's a part of how we get work done here. It's not about, it's protecting the people that are coming to you. And with luxury at the Helmsley Palace, it was one of the first five diamond hotels in New York, and it was about the sleep experience. It was about large TV screens. And again, that was the mid 80s. To bringing it forward to today, the experiences are even much more. And that's where I go with the personal connections. It's not only creating, it's going from luxury to legendary. And that's what we strive for at Dorchester, not only here at Bel-Air, but as a company with Dorchester Collection. And we
yeah.
include that with our employees as well, because our legacy are the employees are around us and what they do every single day.
Yeah, and there's another thing going on, Atish. I'm writing these down. Luxury to legendary. I like that a lot. And but I suppose at the end of the day, that's the evolutionary process as well. Is you're responsible for creating experiences for people, but that's not just the people who are paying you the money to be there. It's the people that you pay as well. They've got to have a great experience while they're under your guard.
Definitely. And, I think that how we listen, the similar patterns of how we listen to our guests is how we listen to our employees. And if, they are more in contact with the guests than I am as a general manager, day in and day out. We had a family staying with us last summer, and it was their first time together because of the pandemic. And the grandmother didn't really go out as much, and she stayed in her room knitting. And our housekeeper, coincidentally, also loved to knit. And so, as she was cleaning the room, they started talking about their knitting habits. And
As you do. Yep.
yeah, of course. And then she just said, "Stop cleaning. I want you to sit here and knit with me." And to have the employee feel comfortable knowing that that's what the guest wanted at that moment in time was okay. So that if she didn't vacuum the room, if she didn't clean the bathroom thoroughly, but did it enough to the guest was satisfied with it, what that the grandmother wanted more than anything was companionship, sharing knitting stories, and having a wonderful conversation that lasted maybe 45 minutes, the time it took to clean the room. But she was happy with that. Her bed was made. And the housekeeper the room attendant came back to us and said, I didn't clean the room, but I knitted with the guest. And we were like, "Did the guest ask you to knit?" And she said, "Yes." And,
No, I
that's,
just did it because I fancied it. Yeah.
yeah. So, it's those moments where the employees also, it's a sense of confidence. That they know that they're doing the right thing at that moment because they're in front of the guests and they're reading the guests correctly.
Yeah. And you have to have I suppose, the confidence and trust in your people to allow them to be themselves in that moment, right? Rather than following a manual or following the best thing for that whole thing there was that's enhanced your guest's experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a memory that they will cherish and share with them rather than the fact that the bed was made perfectly, which I'm sure it still was, but that maybe that intricate attention to detail that's normally there wasn't there this time. But as you say, the guest didn't really care about that. They just wanted to talk knit.
For sure. And, purpose, the sense of purpose that they feel that they belong to the success of this hotel by each experience that they create. And it's the journey of where we are today and who we are to what we will be in the future. And, always connecting that together with
Yeah,
those stories and experiences.
absolutely. I feel like we might have to move on from knitting because I don't really have much to add other than I think it was
I
knit
don't
one,
either.
pearl one. I think I remember that from my primary school days, but there we are.
It's been a long time for me too, Phil.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, okay. Well, I did have another question for you there that's just completely gone out my head. But anyway, we'll come back to that. That's kind of my brain, really, to be honest. So you've been there now for over 10 years, did you say? I think it
Yes.
was. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think the one thing that I've picked up so far from the property is that generally speaking, if and you can correct me if I'm completely off the mark here, but it's you said it kind of merges in with the local community in terms of its design and its architecture. So it's not a hotel that you can emulate or is emulated anywhere else. I can't think of anywhere else in the world that has that kind of approach. Therefore, it sounds like discretion is massively important. It's a place where people can come and be off the radar, I suppose, because it's not an in-your-face hotel.
Yes, and it's the community really feels that the Bel-Air is their backyard. The Bel-Air estate area was actually conceived by a gentleman named Alfonso Bell back in the 1920s, an oil tycoon who wanted to create an exclusive residential neighborhood, and he did very successfully. Every home that was built back then was sitting on a hillside that had unobstructed views. And he coined a phrase of people that you would like to know and have as your neighbors is what he wanted in the community. So he conceived the Bel-Air Country Club, which is still in existence today, the Bel-Air Bay Club, which is off the Pacific Ocean on Pacific Coast Highway, which is still existence today. And the hotel was sitting on stables, right, and housed horses and so on during that time period. And then in 1946, another visionary, Joseph Drone, envisioned a place for people to come and feel relaxed and be on their own and create. And his name was Joseph Drone, and that was the beginning of Bel-Air. He created and envisioned all of the gardens, our Swan Lake that house our swans, and brought in a landscape that is second to none, really, today. So when we renovated back in 2009 and 10, the infrastructure remained the same. But what we did is protected the heritage of the hotel, refurbished it, but the grounds and the actual structures, some of which were built in the 1920s to the 1980s, still remained the same footprint.
Right.
And that was out of respect for the community as well, because they look at, coming over the bridge and being able to sit on the lawn, being able to eat in the restaurant, to enjoy neighbors and gather as a community, not only from Bel-Air, but when I say community now, it's basically worldwide is what it's grown to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's really cool. I mean, it's probably sits on a lot of people's lists as to a hotel that they would want to visit in their lifetime at some point. And I certainly want to walk over this bridge now that you've mentioned on a couple of occasions, because I have a picture in my head now that I will not
Okay.
rest until I am walking over that bridge to see it for myself.
We'll have to get you over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Consider that done at some point for sure. Well, we can travel again now, so let's see what happens. But yeah, so that's the past. We will come back to the past actually, because I'm going to ask you about stories, etc., the ones that you can share. But what does the future hold for the property now? What are you in the midst of looking to try and achieve for the next phase?
We are focusing, as we did through, we never really stopped through the pandemic. As I said, we retained all of our employees. Nobody was furloughed. And the company itself also looked again of balancing that employee experience to the guest experience and really looking at taking it and understanding what that guest experience is directly from the guest. So all of our feedback, and we use a company by the name of Medallia, which we take very closely, where guests after their stay really tell us it's as we said earlier, it's about, we know that we can make a perfect bed, but were we able to connect with you? Were we able to understand what you were here for and deliver on our promises? So moving forward, and the differentiator that sets us apart from other companies right now, or the hotel companies, is definitely cutting edge of how we're looking at the guest experience and getting as much knowledge, not only to the reservationists that are booking the reservations, but also to that housekeeper, to the server, and to the spa attendant, of knowing the guest before, having enough information on the guest so they feel comfortable having a conversation with the guest and connecting with the guest and building those relationships, because we pride ourselves and that our what sets us apart is not only our graciousness on how we deliver the service, it's building the relationships, it's valuing that certain way of life while they're with our hotels, and giving the employee confidence, because the more knowledge they have of not only understanding how to set up a table, how to clean a room, how to answer a phone, it is about knowledge about the hotel and knowledge about the guest. So, we're moving forward in understanding that excellence part, so that as a team, not only collectively here at Bel-Air, but, all 9 of our hotels.
Yeah, it's such a massive thing now as well. Actually, what you mentioned there around building relationships, it's you can teach people, of course, all of the skills under the sun as long as they want to be taught. But it's actually the relationship that will make people believe that they belong.
Mm-hmm.
And if they feel connected to the people around them beyond the bones of their job, in inverted commas, of course they're going to always go the extra mile, and they're always going to go the extra mile, not just for the guests but for each other. And that's when sparks fly, and that's when the beauty of having a really engaged culture comes to life. And it seems to be something, the more people that I speak to within your organization, that's really, really front and center. And that, I'm a massive fan of Genio anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine he's got one or two things to say on the subject.
He does. He helps keep us all. He keeps us all in line, basically, too. But you don't really have to. I think I think the companies that remain strong during COVID and coming out of COVID were ones that were stayed true to their values, right,
Yeah,
and really walk the talk. And now we are recruiting new employees, but the gap of, because we retained our employees during COVID, they are here to help us as well to train the new team members that are coming on board in understanding our culture and understanding how we get work done, and what it means to be legendary, and form those connections and relationships. And so, it's certainly not smooth. We definitely have bumps in the road, but we look to our strengths to ensure that, and use those strengths to ensure that, to get us through those moments, and be very open and upfront with our customers as well, our guests.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful a business is and where it's going, there are going to be bumps, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you have to embrace the bumps along the way in order to make progress.
For sure, for sure. And it's really relaying that message of a confident future. So to your point, and your question on what the future lies, it's that sense of confidence that we can still evolve and find create new ways for guests to enjoy our hotel and still remain relevant. But the relevance is definitely connecting with that guest experience. And it's not about creating an elaborate, although we do that too, arrival, and having lots of amenities in the room. It's that personal touch of really touching that moment of why they're there, touching to the heart of that, and capturing their hearts.
Yeah, and that, well, that lives long in the memory, doesn't it?
Yes.
And people are likely to want to come back if they've been made to feel very special. We have a thing in the UK here. We have a battle actually with our government, in the sense that they don't seem to take hospitality particularly seriously. Forever using phrases like low skilled, but I will always shout about this till the cows come home, that the ability to make somebody feel special is the greatest skill that exists on the planet Earth.
Oh, for sure. And that art of graciousness. And I think the hospitality is always the first industry, to get hit in the downturn, right? When people start pulling back.
Yeah,
And yes, it might be a little bit, it is different for what we term luxury. But going out to restaurants and so on, and it's a people's lifestyle. But I have seen first generation of immigrants coming in and being able proudly to show me the graduation of their sons and daughters, or granddaughters and grandsons, from college for the first time.
yeah,
And they were able to do that based on their dedication to their career in the hospitality industry, and the variety that's out there too. It's like operating a city. We have a finance department, we have a security department, engineering. We work with a local organization called LA Promise Fund, and we had an intern come in, a high school senior, come in and work in engineering for 3 weeks. And he shared a video with us afterwards of his experience, and it opened his eyes up to like the sea of opportunities that are there. And it's great that we can have a conversation today about that, so that
yeah,
anybody out there listening can really explore that. And it's in every city and every community. There is a restaurant, there are hotels, and it's out there and available. And
absolutely.
the quality of life is good too.
Yeah, and that's you're absolutely right. That's something that doesn't get spoken about particularly often. It's always the businesses where the hours are long and all of these sorts of things that get the headlines all of the time. But balance is available out there within the industry for sure.
Yeah, and I think as hospitality, yes, there are positions that you can work from home. The majority of the positions you cannot, but it's looking at, okay, what can we do differently and add to the environment while someone is working here? Is it a little wellness corner where someone can go on their break and release stress, or just have a quiet moment, or have a quiet area to call someone, while they're at work, or check on their children? And it's also understanding, speaking of children, single mothers looking at, childcare. And it's up to us to understand it and then see how we can work through it. And it goes back to our culture and the
Yeah,
foundation of how we work together.
yeah, and the evolution
Mm-hmm.
of everything as well. And it amazes me that I hate to use the phrase "in this day and age," but because that's me sounding like my parents again, that we are still having to talk about things like that, that they're not just in the natural psyche of things, that they're not just naturally dealt with from business to business, that we still have to be, if you're coming up with a solution to make single mothers' lives easier, then this is, an amazing thing rather than the normal thing.
Yes, and again, I'm fortunate to work with the company that I am with right now, and it. but hopefully too, people, everyone does market surveys, right? And they see what other companies are doing.
Yeah,
And yes, and we as a hospitality industry need to look outside the industry to see what other industries are doing for
absolutely.
their people as well, to remain relevant and introduce maybe not the exact thing, but a slightly different way of achieving the same objective. And the employees value that. They see that you're listening, or they know that you're listening, and they see that you're trying to understand it. And again, just like from our guest, getting the employee feedback through meetings, through one-on-one conversations, they come up with the best ideas.
Yeah,
And having, and then as a leader, it's up to us to put that vision together and see how we can execute it.
yeah. I mean, the industry has the opportunity to be the most inclusive industry under the sun. To your point earlier on around the diversity of opportunity, basically, you can, as you say, it's like you're running a city. You've got so many different departments. It's not all just the obvious ones. There are so many things going on behind the scenes, and there's no barrier to entry for a lot of people as well. You yes, there are nice to haves, but if you are literally coming out of school and you don't know what you want to do, go and work in some hospitality businesses, because you'll learn so many different things that, whether you use them in hospitality or not, they'll help you
Mm-hmm.
move forward.
Yeah, and again, some people are in it for 5 years, some are in it for 2 years, but it's a transition for them. But you have a valid point. They take the lessons learned from this and use it moving forward. But then their majority of the people are still here with us, and the longevity of 10-year employees and 30-year employees at some of our other hotels is quite amazing. And I always like to concentrate on I understand when things go wrong, but I always like to stay focused on the positive, on what we are doing,
Absolutely.
because things always do get better, and I always believe the best is yet to come.
Yeah, and there's psychology behind this. I'm absolutely sure. That you think about these moments whereby you wake up with dread about something that's that's happening later that day, that's going to take you outside your comfort zone or whatever it is, and the dread that you have is purely for that one moment in time. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same with any kind of adversity that comes up in your life. Yes, there are days where it becomes troublesome, but there's always an end to any adversity.
True, and I'm surrounded by experts in every level of employment here, and I rely on experts. It's not my decision alone, and that also creates that sense of community and creating opportunities of learning different things, of shadowing in different departments to see if that is something that you would like to do. And having very honest conversations on what are the strengths of our team and what is lacking, and how will that strengthen the team by adding another team member or another personality with different strengths. And it's a balancing act every day, and it's a
Yeah,
constant conversation. It's something that you don't have once a year. You can have it every day if needed
yeah, yeah.
to create that team.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as soon as you take out one piece of or one cog from the machine has changed, isn't it? So
Yes.
you have to figure out what cog you need to replace. And I really apologize for referring to human beings as cogs, but anyway, there we are. Great stuff. Well, as we've learned, you've been in the industry for 1 or 2 years now. You must have some stories from within your time. I mean, the knitting story was good. I'm not going to lie; that was a good one. But are there any funny stories that you can share with us?
um, I don't, well, funny. We have fun every day. I think, watching things unfold is part of the joy. And I can't give out any names, but to see legends in the Hollywood industry meet each other for the first time in our restaurant is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah,
And
can
one of
imagine.
them being right, and one of them being shy to introduce one to the other. And you see that unfold. And, as you're watching it unfold, I'm also watching the employees. And it's wonderful how you can be so present yet invisible to allow a connection like that to happen. To have a 50th wedding anniversary on our front lawn and having a Neil Diamond cover band playing music all night long, and a young family coming over, walking over the bridge and hearing the music and drawing them into the space of the open front lawn and peeking behind the hedging that is temporarily put up. And you see their faces light up. And then the host of the party invites the little girls who are
Ah,
under 10 onto the dance floor. And again, watching how our employees are instructing the photographer to take pictures. And later we created an album of, these little girls dancing with a stranger, and the 50th anniversary host laughing and enjoying it with them. And it's the connection of generations there and strangers at the same time.
yeah.
And then the father grabbing the little girl's hand and saying, "Isn't this the best night ever?" So, it's moments like that, I think, that we're just so privileged to be a part of.
Yeah, I'll take kindness stories as well for sure. I mean, kindness breeds kindness, doesn't it? And that story actually is a great case in point there around you guys are delivering a wonderful hospitality package to somebody who's experiencing a landmark event in their life. And there you've put them into such a wonderful frame of mind that kindness emanates outwards to the next interaction, whatever that may be. And in this case, it was a father daughter who were peeking in, that they could have quite easily have said, "Get out of here! This is not your place. This is ours," or whatever. But no, they wanted to welcome them in. So yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
start writing kindness stories down as well. Actually,
And there's, we see, public business transactions, deals being made in front of us and seeing it in the headlines later. We see books being published that we know that were written here. There's just, it's just such a vibrant community in that sense. And we're here to protect it. And I think I said it several times. It's the employees knowing, to your point, our employees could have stopped the father and daughter saying that's a private party, you cannot enter, but allowing them just to peek, and then everybody making those connections. It just all went into sync and understanding that this is how we live Bel-Air. That's the
yeah,
simplest way I can put it.
yeah,
Working it
absolutely,
and living it.
for sure. So, from your career so far, what would you say have been your biggest lessons to date? That's a deep question. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Being authentic, always remaining true to who you are. And you, as an individual, I have been exposed to so many things, but I always stood in confidence of understanding. And it was my own journey of personally, especially in leadership, of understanding who I was and not trying to be anything more or less of that. And I think, especially with what we've experienced over the last 2 years, is truly patience and listening to people differently, to truly understand where they are at, understanding their journey, and how do you put that together for a guest experience, putting all of that together for a guest experience or an employee experience. And always having fun.
Here,
It's
here. That
it's
that doesn't
life.
that doesn't
Life.
get talked about enough.
No, life is too short, and yes, you want to emote. And I guess Sunday night at the Oscars was a lesson and an understanding of patience and just understanding. People. Yes, people are more on edge, but people are also ready for generosity and kindness as well,
Yeah.
and wanting to have fun and wanting to feel that, okay, we're here to take care of you. And in this industry, yes, it does take a certain personality to understand that graciousness and the service of the care of service, that art of care and the art of hospitality. And it is a true art, and it changes every day. And that, to me, that gets my adrenaline going. And if it does for you versus sitting at home working on your computer, that's great too. But you can truly live a great life in this industry and
Absolutely. I
witness a
mean,
great life.
yeah, and even just what you've spoken about there in terms of the stuff that must happen in your lobby and in your food and beverage outlets and all across your hotel about the things that have been written, the deals that have been done, all of the things that happen behind closed doors that are just amazing and groundbreaking and life changing and world shaking, and I mean that hopefully in a positive way. It's all of this stuff happens in front of your eyes, and you get a front row seat to it.
I know. I know. And the employees here know that as well. And, that code of confidentiality and seeing it unfold is part of what makes them really proud to be here as well, because we
Yeah,
respect that with each other as well as with our guests.
yeah. Imagine waking up every day and not knowing what was going to happen.
I
How
know.
exciting is that? I think you've got to be okay with surprises, though.
It's filled
That's the
with
one.
surprises. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
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 Great stuff. I was going to ask you what your top three reasons for someone to join hospitality are, but I think you've kind of covered that across the conversation. I think there's probably wasn't three there. There was probably a great deal many more.
Yeah, definitely the diversity, right, of the world coming to you and all the different cultures and understanding firsthand culturally where people are how they grew up, where they came from, the variety of opportunities, and exposure to the world, right, and fun,
Yeah,
just
fun,
having
fun,
fun.
fun, fun was the primary reason why I started this in the first place, because I see I'm a recruiter and I recruit for the industry, and I obviously get to talk to a lot of people anyway in my
Hmm.
job, and I see a lot of good stuff all of the time. And the one thing that never gets talked about is the fun. And so that's why I wanted to not, I suppose, produce a podcast that's all about serious conversation, although I'm always very happy to go there. But let's talk about the fun, because it's it's everywhere and you don't even have to look that hard for it. And yes, there will be days where you'll wish you hadn't gotten out of bed, but newsflash, that happens in every single job that you can ever imagine. But this industry is riddled with fun.
It is, and the execution of creating a dinner for 200 people, getting the timing out on time, but you're standing right next to another coworker, and everybody's focused on it, and it's uplifting because you are a part of creating a dream, and
Yeah,
it happens in the front of the house, in the heart of the house, and you laugh together, and it's um, it's that sharing of that emotion in that moment in time that builds, the threads of a team.
yeah. And there's even fun in disaster.
True.
And it might not feel like it at the time, but how many disasters have we all been through that we look back on and go, "Ah, do you remember that time when I dropped those 30 glasses of champagne or whatever?" Um, yeah, it's
I know.
the fun is there. You just need to. Well, you don't even have to look that hard for it, but go and find it if you're not finding it already.
Yeah, and it's a key message to show the team mistakes. We have all made mistakes, and we will continue to make mistakes. But it's our recovery, and how do we recover together? Because again, they know it's that confidence level that I know that they will go out and do it again,
Yeah,
and they'll do it the right way.
yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Well, if people would like to reach out to you to learn more about Bel-Air, the hotel, your career, what would be the best method for them to do that?
Probably via email. It's denise.flanders@dorchestercollection.com.
Wonderful. Easy as that.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, Denise, thank you so much for sharing your story with us on the podcast today. It's been a real privilege for me to have a chat to you. I really need to do more of this. More international chats needed.
Well, I also want to say thank you to you and your passion in opening up the doors and windows to hospitality and giving us a chance to talk about personal experiences, what everyone in the world and in this industry has gone through, our journeys, because again, there's more positive stories out there to be shared, and you're giving us that avenue and venue to do so. So thank you for that from all of our hearts here at Bel-Air.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much,
Thank
Denise.
you.
I wish
Good
you all the
seeing you.
best for the year ahead and
You
beyond.
too, Phil. Wonderful. And I'll see you in Bel-Air soon.
I'm over the
Hopefully.
bridge. Over the bridge. For sure. Absolutely. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And there we have it. Another wonderful human from within the world of hospitality, demonstrating that when you find your home, amazing things can happen. Thanks so much, Denise. We will, of course, be back next Wednesday with another cracking story from hospitality. So until then, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.